Good. And if
Hello.
Hey,
How are you?
good. How are you?
Good. It's different being on this side.
I
I didn't know
know.
what to wear, so I wore my t-shirt.
The best shirt. I should have put mine on quick. Dang.
Well, if I wasn't sitting in front of a fan right now, I would have worn my onesie.
Oh, I have the onesie.
The onesie.
Onesie ready. All right, guys. So this is Michelle. She is from Australia. So listening to her talk tonight is going to be fun for everybody. Yes, we all have the onesies. We got to wear those next time.
Yes. I'll come visit.
So do you want to start off, just tell us a little bit about, you have been through it twice now, so if you want to tell us a little bit about, the diagnosis, and they were, 5 years apart?
So, excuse my voice. I've got like a bit of a virus at the moment. I sound a bit like raspy, but diagnosed 7 years ago and then 2 years later, so 2 years in between. What's wrong with my lovely Australian accent? So the first time I was diagnosed, I basically went to get an STI check at the doctor because I was in a relationship, and she's like, let's have a pap smear. I'm like, I don't have time. I need to get back to work. And I don't know, like, she's like, if you have time to argue about it, you have time to do it. So I ended up having my pap smear, and it was like 6 years overdue. My sister was going through cancer at the same time. And I just thought, it's not really relevant to me. Like, we can't be that unlucky. So I didn't think it was a necessity. And she goes, we'll be in touch within a month or something. And then they called me like 2 days later, and I sort of freaked out. Sorry. And thought that like I had some sort of STI or something. So I went back in, and she said, that there was precancerous cells and blah, blah, blah. And I just thought, like, a lot of my friends were having laser to treat that back then. So I didn't think it was anything. And 6 weeks later, I went and had a cone biopsy, which is where they, excuse the too much information, but where they go in and like scrape your insides out, basically, like a comb. That's why they call it a cone biopsy, probably. But yeah, like even then, I didn't even register that cancer was going to be on the agenda. I was 35. I think that's important to note. And I was in the transition of moving from Melbourne to Brisbane. And I was doing that on a bit of a whim because I wanted to love my life, settle down, do yoga every morning, eat right. And a week later, I was saying goodbye to one of my good friends in Melbourne, and I got a phone call. And they told me over the phone that basically, yeah, you have cancer. And I was like, I want a second opinion. This can't be right. And I remember my friend Alicia was just sitting there. She's going like, what's going on? And sort of got off the phone and said, I have to go. And that's basically when I fell in love with Foster the People, because I jumped into my car and they were playing on the radio, and I just cried for the whole song, and then drove home and told my mum, and that was it. Everybody's like, well, you can't move. And I'm like, you watch me. So I moved up to Brisbane, which for you guys is like, so 2 states away. So a 2.5 hour plane ride. I didn't know anybody here, so it was a bit daunting, but got settled, went home. It was a week before Christmas. So they started by removing my lymph nodes to see if the cancer had spread. And for me, that was really good because they didn't do that to my sister. They just attacked her with chemo. So lesson learnt. And then because it hadn't spread, they just were able to give me a hysterectomy, leaving my ovaries in, which hindsight would have been great if they could have taken them then. But that was to delay menopause because I was 35 and they did want to try and like push it out a little bit. So that was that. I got to see Santa in hospital and had fevers and couldn't move for 4 days because of the gas that they used, and it was a great way to spend Christmas, but it is what it is. So that was round 1, and yeah, it was pretty tough.
How did you get through it? What kept you going? What motivated you or inspired you? Or
I think it was like just getting through it. It wasn't like, people still to this day say, oh, you're so inspiring, you're so brave, but like it makes me so uncomfortable when, like, I feel like crying now when people say that, because in that moment, you don't feel brave. You feel sort of like a fraud when people say that, because you're just surviving. Like, you're getting up, you don't want to be a burden. You don't want people to look at you and go, oh, you have cancer, poor thing. So you just keep putting one step in front of another. And, you know, it is tough. Like, I rang the cancer counsellor here, which no offence to them, but when I found out I was diagnosed, and they said, oh, you should call Lifeline, you sound really depressed. And I'm like, no fucking shit. I'm allowed to say the F word, aren't I? Yeah.
No, you could say it. Absolutely. We allow that here.
Sorry, Mum. But, yeah, like, I'm like, of course I'm depressed, and of course I'm scared. Like, you know, it was just, I was 35. I wasn't like an old lady. And most people, when I would go in and have my checkups, were like 70. So it was a bit weird. But getting through it was tough. I just used to sort of put on a bit of a mask and be brave. And the one person that I was probably mean to was my mum, because, you know, you can be, but at the same token, like, you can be a bit vulnerable with those sorts of people. And yeah, it was really funny. Like, my best friend dressed up as Santa and bought me rumbles. It was a matter of, like, just focusing on those people that let you be you, and, you know, you could just get through it.
Exactly.
But then I guess the tricky thing for me, and where our paths sort of collided, is when I moved back to Brisbane, I had nobody, and that was my choice. It wasn't that, you know, I didn't have anybody. I just sort of isolated myself, and it was good in a way, because I didn't feel like I was being a burden, and I wasn't being suffocated or anything like that. So, but the downside of that is that, you know, it'd be 3 o'clock in the morning and I'd be sad or whatever, and, you know, there was no one to talk to, which became a bit of a problem. I got really, really sad. And another random thing, I know we were having this conversation yesterday, but when they sent my cervix from Melbourne to Brisbane, it got lost. So it wanted to go on one last road trip, one last hurrah. So they couldn't do my margins for like 3 weeks. So I was in this sort of state of limbo. And I'm like, of course my cervix wanted to like have one last hurrah. The day before I had my hysterectomy, I got my period. I'm like, of course you would. Like, why? It's not even due. It's just like wanted one last go. So it didn't surprise me. But yeah, it was waiting that 3 weeks to find out if I need to have chemo or whether they got it all was really, really horrible. And I think that's when my self-doubt sort of like kicked in as well, because I was 35. I couldn't have children, and I didn't have children. I wasn't in a relationship where I could justify like storing my eggs or doing that sort of thing. I was just getting through it. So I got into a really bad headspace, which we touched on yesterday, and you didn't know the whole story, but I picked up my phone. I just had enough. And, you know, I wanted to, in that moment, not saying all the time, but just in that moment, I didn't want to be here. And I picked up my phone, started writing a message, didn't really have the right words. And luckily for me, I, as we do, started to go for a scroll through my social media. And the first thing I seen was like Sophia Bush. And she was raising money for a challenge and a little charity called Fuck Cancer, which totally saved my life. I clicked through and watched this little girl called Yale. And she was giving her TED talk. And it stopped me in that minute. And that's, I think, the thing that lacks, like even now 7 years later, people feel very, very isolated. And you can never, ever judge anybody of where they were or where they are. But I am so grateful that that community exists, because like you can literally be in your bedroom at 3 o'clock in the morning and you can talk via Facebook. You can talk, well, back then, I don't think there was Instagram. That makes me feel really old, but I don't think there was Instagram back then. And you can sort of like really start to meet people and open up about what's bugging you at that time, because a lot of people, they don't know what to say and they don't know what you're going through. And it's really hard to sort of relate and bond. So anyway, I digress, but that's my first story and why Fuck Cancer means a lot to me. And it's also how people like you come into my life, and like Amanda and Bernie and Rosie, like I could just sit here and name like a heap of people, but these are people that live in a different country to me, that are different age groups. Like, you like Justin Bieber back then, which, like,
I still do.
I know. We all do. But
most people
like,
do.
The thing is that we should never have like been in each other's lives, and you guys have been such a massive support to me. Like, so yeah, thank you.
Aw, love you. Well, I don't even know where my brain was just going. Okay, so I guess that just ties in with the whole. What? Sorry.
I said, I know I mentioned Justin Bieber, and you like, woo.
My brain's all knocked off track. No, but that just ties in with the whole thing. I feel like that's becoming a reoccurring theme on these, is like the mental state and how important it is to have somebody else there, which is why I wanted to create these to, you know, introduce people. And you had first ovarian and then
so cervical cancer the first time, and then 2 years later,
cervical first.
I had a lot of trouble initially, like in the first couple of months. I had so cervical cancer the first time. So I ended up in hospital with like, I hope I get this right, a tubo-ovarian abscess. Is basically like ridiculously painful. Like, it's horrible. And like, they have to put drains in and stuff. So I was feeling okay and everything, but I don't know if in hindsight that the doctors didn't do the right thing, or whether it was just bad luck. Like, when I was diagnosed 2 years later, they said that it was unrelated. Like, it wasn't like a secondary cancer. So
it was just random. Like, you got it again. You're the lucky one.
Like, the thing is people go, oh, you should have had chemo, you should have done this and that and everything else. But the thing is that if, like, you know, when it comes back, like, you know what's going to come. And because I went like removal of my lymph nodes, and then I had like my cervix and all these parts I didn't even actually know what they were removed. Like, people go, well, you should have had chemo and then you wouldn't be in this situation, or you should have had your ovary out. And the thing is that no cancer treatment is the same for anybody. Like, there's your stock standard sort of, you know, ABC, but everybody's different. Everybody's stories, like, their medical story is different. So I just did what I felt was right for me at the time. And, you know, when it came back, I was a lot more educated because of FC. Like, I had spoken to people, I knew stuff, and I went into it like very, very empowered because, and I don't think I've told you how I got diagnosed the second time because I was so nervous when I started. Blah. But like, I put on, like, I was 62 kilos and I put on like 30 kilos. And over that time, when I remember getting over 70 kilos, I'm like, geez, like, what's going on here? This is, you know, okay, maybe a little bit of weight. So I wasn't on medication. I hadn't had chemo. Like, I was just getting bigger. Like, my thighs started to rub. Like, it was gross because that never happened to me before. Yeah. And so I think it was a period of about 8 months. I was going back and forward and whatever. So what happened? Oh, the lady of the hour. Hello, Amanda. I ended up going back to Melbourne because my doctors were saying, go on antidepressants, like you're being what's that word? Where you love yourself. Like, I was being vain. And the thing is that I was being vain because I didn't want to get overweight. Like, I just had all this terrible stuff happen to me. So I was 90 kilos and I ended up going back to Melbourne, and my doctor down there said, look, I think you're fine, but I'll organise a PET scan. So had a PET scan and boom, Michelle was right. So for about 10 or 11 months, like, they were just saying I was overweight, I need to go on a calorie controlled diet, like, and the whole time, like, I was kind of right. Like, I knew something was up because, like, I had been involved a little bit more with people in the community and stuff like that. So it sort of helped. So I had to fly home and tell my parents for Christmas, like, guess what? My cancer's back. And ever since then, like, I said that if it ever came back, I just, like, called it a virus. Like, it was never going to own me. So it's fine.
Oh my gosh.
And the reason
Yeah.
why I get teary is because like people get scared, I think, when it comes back. And like all you can do, my advice to anybody that is going through this, and I hope I never go through it again, is you have the tools to sort of like deal with it, like whether it's like mindset, whether it's a community, whether it's your friends knowing what to say this time around, like you're just better prepared. And like, you know, there's this one girl that I know through FC, Rosie, like she just, I don't know how she finds her strength, and it's come back she's amazing. So don't ever be scared if it comes back, like just fight, like, you know, that's all you
Yeah,
can
I
do.
think that's a huge thing too for people, because I know for myself, like I've only gone through it once, and I can't imagine if it had come back. I was talking to Kyle about that yesterday after we talked. Like, I just can't imagine doing that. And like you said about Rosie, she finds the strength. You just find the strength. You find the way, and I feel like that's very important for people to know who might be watching or need to hear it. Like, you can do it. You're proof that you can do it.
I mean, I was really lucky, I guess. I've never ever asked why me. And a lot of people sort of say, why is this happening to me? 20% battery. I did charge it, kind of. I've seen a message from Amy this morning. I'm like, crap, charge your phone. Where was I? Do you remember what I was saying? My brain's gone blank.
About it coming back and talking to people.
Yeah, like, I don't know. The thing is that it's, yeah. Next question.
Next question.
Oh,
okay.
you were saying about, like, you're talking to Kyle about it coming back and stuff. Like, the thing is that you can't worry about it. Like, cancer is something that happened to me. It doesn't define me as how I went into it initially. But a funny thing happens along the way, and cancer is a big part of who I am. Like, I've made lifelong friends, and I brought a plane ticket to LA and went away for like 8 weeks and had no itinerary. I was going to New York to see my best friend, which is how I turned up at your house and your mum thought I was a serial killer. Hi, Sheila. And then I went down to Vancouver to see Amanda at Burns at the old FC office. And like, there are things that would never have happened to me if I didn't have cancer. Like, so I feel very, very grateful to have cancer. And that's what I was saying, is that I've never asked why me. Instead, I've just thought, you know, it's happening, deal with it. And you've got to sort of embrace it and look for the good in it. And that was my point. Got it now?
Find the good.
When I first went into hospital, I had really, really, really bad veins, probably because I never drank enough water and still don't. But I was sat with 2 little kids, and they ended up passing within 5 months of me getting out of hospital, which also is another reason why I went on a trip to see Monica in New York after being in remission for 5-6 months. Oh, and Foster the People were playing in Vegas. But Monica, if you're watching, it was always to see you. It was never to see Foster the People. But hanging out with kids that have cancer, like, it seriously is the biggest kick up your ass if you have a bad attitude. Like, these kids are like so happy, and you know, like, they know that something's bad is happening to them, but they don't actually like get the magnitude of it all. Like, they're just, and they really do change your mindset. Like, cancer in kids is one of the most evil things. And even young adults like yourself, I reckon the reason why I reached out to you when I did is I seen this beautiful girl with this amazing long hair and, you know, very fit. Now I know that you're a cheerleader in high school, makes a lot of sense. But it's like, this poor little baby, like, she's not even 21. She's got to cut all her hair off, and because you've done those shoots and stuff. And that's how I ended up reaching out to you, because I was just like, I'm so glad that's not me. Like, how can I help her? So, and that's sort of like the attitude I've got into all my cancers with is just like, what can I do?
Exactly. And I think that says a lot about who you are. I don't really have any other questions. I think we covered everything. Do you have anything you want to add? I think
I'd like to add a little something about you and what an amazing person you are. And I'm sorry that I've babbled today. I didn't have the
You're
best
not
night.
babbling.
As I said, like, I've had a bit of a virus at the moment, so everything's just a bit like, ugh. But I didn't want to put it off either, because like, it's important that you do this every week, even if it doesn't feel right or if it's hard or whatever. Like, you need to show up, Bren, because you've been wanting to do this for some time, and I have no doubt that you are destined for great things in this space.
You're gonna make me cry. Thank you.
Excellent. And like, that's why I was helping you and stuff, because like, the thing is that not enough people talk about cancer, and it's why I watch Yael's TED Talk whenever I go and have a checkup, because like, it reminds me of, you know, that when I say she's little, like, she's not little, but she got up on that stage, and I'm sure that she was like really, really nervous. And that's what I said to you, like, it's all got to start somewhere. So I hope one day that I get an email or a text or a FaceTime saying the Cancer Diary is now a diary, or the Cancer Diary is now a book, or hey, I've got a podcast. I'd much prefer a podcast because I don't like looking at my face.
I agree. I've come to know that.
You have to stick at it, and you have to like just keep going. It doesn't matter who it is, like, or what it is. Like, I'm the eldest person. We didn't touch on that, but I'm like 43 in April. So, you know, cancer doesn't really... Oh, well, I'm old enough to be your mama.
To be fair, she's miniature in terms of physical space. True.
One day I'm going to meet Yael, and I'm going to put her over my shoulder and like give her a hug. I think it'll happen one day. But
yeah,
look,
well, that's
Bren,
just what I want these to be.
Stick at it, and like, just remember that if you touch one person, that sounds creepy, but you know, like, you're going to touch a lot of other people, because I used to keep a list of people that would contact me, and they would say, oh, I went and had a pap smear because of you, or, you know, I was talking to a friend and stuff. And I misplaced that list when I moved last time. Bloody, that Marie Kondo lady has a lot to answer for. But you'll never know your reach if you're talking about it. And it might be 5 people that you don't know about, but just keep going. That's my advice to anybody out there too, is just have the conversations, like, keep talking, because the more people talk about it, I mean, the easier it is for other people. Like, I remember this morning FC posted something, what's the worst thing someone said to you when you had cancer? Like, I was told you didn't have cancer bad enough, or like, you're 35, like, you had enough time to have kids. Sometimes people say things with good intent, or, you know, but it comes across really shitty. So I feel the more people talk about it, the better we're all going to be.
Exactly. And everyone's experience with it is different. I'm here to help you.
Pardon?
I said, and everyone's experience with it is different. So the more we can all share our stories and help each other, it's like, I didn't even know what Hodgkin's lymphoma was. So now I've come to find out that it is a cancer.
Yeah, and there's so many different cancers out there now, like cervical cancer, there's like a vaccine for it, and you have, no offense, but this is just my own personal beliefs, but like, people don't want to have the vaccine because they're anti-vaxxers and stuff. And I just think that if you can cure something that I've been through and nip it in the bud,
do it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, you know, it stops it, and then you can actually spend money to focus on other cancers. It took me a month to pronounce it.
Does anybody have any questions before we wrap this up? I keep forgetting to do that on all the lives, like, ask if anyone has questions. I mean, I know most people are going to either not watch this or watch it on the replay, but if you do have questions and you can't think of them now, message Michelle or message me. I will have her Instagram, right?
Maybe.
I will tag her Instagram in one of the posts. And And do you have anything else you want to add?
Oh, thank you for letting me babble today. As I said, like it's
Your
one of those
babbling
things.
has probably helped somebody, so thank you.
It's one of those things that I posted today. Like people tell a story, like be careful what you wish for, Vic. Find
We're
me
having a giant party.
Now that you can drink when I come over.
Yes.
I remember last time, I think you were 20 and under legal drinking age, so it's about time I came back for a visit.
I agree.
So, yeah. But, Vic, if you want to come to Woodstock with me, this is just a random shit show, but I had tickets to see John Mayer last night and I forgot all about it, and then I seen on his Instagram this morning and I'm like,
oops.
So, like, he's playing at Woodstock, which is kind of in New York, but kind of not. So if anyone wants to come with me in August, or we could go to Coachella for my birthday next year. I keep telling Amanda she has to come. So maybe next year we can all go to Coachella and call it Michelle.
That would be fun.
We'll just rename it.
I love that.
All right. Well, if anybody has any questions, they can email me or, DM me or whatever that thing is that you kids do. And Brenna, I'm just so proud of you. I think you're amazing.
Thank you. And I think you're amazing. All right.
Well, look at that hair. Hair goals. If anybody wants good hair, go and see Brenna.
I had it in some weird braids, so it's all messed up right now. But thank you guys, and I will post Michelle's info on my stories. Thank you, Michelle. You're amazing. And
no worries. See ya.
I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Bye.